Most people find out their blood pressure has been silently damaging their arteries for years at their autopsy. A man named Robert sat in my office 2 years ago. He was doing everything right, everything, and his blood pressure was still killing him. But here is what Robert did not know, and what I am going to show you in the next 10 minutes. The answer to his problem was not a new medication. It was sitting in his kitchen the entire time. By the end of this video, I am going to give you a named system, the Vascular Sequence Protocol, that tells you exactly what to eat, in what order, at what time of day, starting at your very next meal. My name is Dr. Clifford Adeshina. For over 2 decades, I have dedicated my life to one mission: giving adults over 60 the health information they deserve to have but rarely receive. This channel exists to fill the gap between the laboratory and your kitchen table. If you want this kind of research-based information every single week, subscribe now and turn on notifications before we go deeper. In over 20 years of medicine, I have watched patients bring me their blood pressure logs, week after week, perfectly compliant with their medications, and still confused about why their numbers refuse to drop. The reason is this: most of them do not understand what is actually happening inside their blood vessels during every meal they eat, and that is what changes everything. Because what is happening inside your blood vessels during every meal you eat is either repairing your arteries or destroying them. Here is what happens after you turn 60. Your blood pressure does not just inch upward because you are eating too much salt or because life is more stressful. Something fundamentally different is occurring inside your arteries. The cells that line your blood vessel walls, we call them endothelial cells, they start to lose their ability to produce something called nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is essentially your body's natural brake system. It tells your arteries to relax and expand to accommodate blood flow. When you are young, your endothelial cells are producing nitric oxide constantly, almost without effort. But after 60, particularly if you have spent decades eating the standard American diet, those cells begin to fail. They cannot keep up with demand. Your vessels start to stay contracted instead of relaxing, and your heart has to work harder. Think about that. Right now, at rest, your heart is working harder than it should be. Not because of genetics, not because of bad luck, because of what is happening at the cellular level inside your vessel walls. The result is that your blood pressure goes up not because of one thing, but because of a cascade of cellular failures happening simultaneously. Most of your doctor's office visits focus only on managing the number, not on repairing the mechanism that caused the number to go up in the first place. That gap between symptom management and actual repair is where this conversation begins. Think about your blood vessels like the difference between a young willow tree branch and a piece of dried driftwood. When you are young, that willow branch bends, it flexes, it absorbs shock. But that driftwood, it is rigid, it cannot bend. It will snap before it yields. And unlike driftwood, your arteries are not dead. They are just starving. And what they are starving for is in your kitchen right now. After 60, without the right nutrients in your system in the right sequence, your blood vessels become that driftwood. The walls stiffen, the lining degrades, and the pressure builds because there is nowhere for the blood to go but harder against those rigid walls. This happens for a specific reason. Your arteries are being starved of the very compounds that keep them flexible: polyphenols, anthocyanins, nitrates, and certain amino acids. These are not exotic substances, they are an ordinary food. But most people over 60 are eating in a pattern that actually depletes these compounds instead of replenishing them. Here is where it gets serious. By the time you notice your blood pressure is high, the damage is often years in the making. You did not wake up one day at 155 over 92. You got there through 1,000 meals that were working against you without you ever knowing it. The research is clear on this. Studies published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition have shown that the quality of what you eat, and more importantly, the order you eat it in, triggers an immediate cascade of inflammatory responses that either help your endothelial cells recover or push them further into decline. Every single meal sends a chemical signal to your blood vessels. The question is whether that signal says heal or whether it says break down. Has your doctor ever mentioned this to you? That the order of your fork matters as much as what is on your fork? Robert was 68 years old. He was a retired accountant. He exercised 3 times a week. He took his medications without fail. He was not overweight. He did not smoke. By every conventional measure, Robert was doing everything right. His doctor told him so. His cardiologist told him so. And yet his blood pressure climbed from 138 over 88 to 156 over 94 over the course of 2 years. When Robert came to see me, he was frustrated and confused. He said, "Dr. Adeshina, I am following the rules. I am taking 4 medications. I am exercising. I am not eating fast food. Why is this happening?" And I asked him one simple question: walk me through what you eat in a typical day. His breakfast was oatmeal with berries. Good choice. But then came the problem. Lunch was almost always a sandwich on white bread with turkey. Dinner was a grilled chicken breast with rice and steamed broccoli. No one meal was terrible, but the pattern was what mattered. Robert was eating in a sequence that was working against him. Every meal followed the same architecture. Carbohydrate first, then protein, then vegetables last. It seemed reasonable, it looked balanced, and it was slowly destroying his blood pressure. Robert had no idea what was happening inside his body during those meals. He could not feel his blood sugar spiking. He could not sense his endothelial cells withdrawing. He could not know that the sequence of what he was eating was triggering an inflammatory cascade that no amount of medication was going to fully stop. Let me give you the 5 changes that Robert made. And I want to be clear, these are not substitutions. These are not additions to an already complicated diet. These are shifts in what you already eat, the order you eat it in, and the timing of nutrient delivery. The first thing you need to understand is the timing of vegetables matters more than the vegetables themselves. Most people eat their vegetables last. They finish the rice or the pasta or the bread, and then if they have room, they eat the broccoli or the salad. This is exactly wrong for your blood pressure. What I want you to do is reverse this. Eat your vegetables first. Raw or cooked, it does not matter. Salad, roasted peppers, Brussels sprouts, cucumber. Start your meal with them. Eat them for 2 to 3 minutes before you touch anything else. Here is why this works. The fiber in vegetables forms a physical gel in your stomach that slows the absorption of glucose from the rest of your meal. When glucose enters your bloodstream slowly, instead of in a sudden spike, your pancreas does not have to release a massive surge of insulin. And insulin, this is the part most people do not know. Insulin causes your blood vessels to constrict. It literally tightens them. Every high insulin surge is a blood pressure spike happening at your dinner table that you cannot see or feel, but your arteries feel it. A study published in Nutrition and Metabolism followed 42 adults over 60 with elevated blood pressure for 8 weeks. Half of them ate their meals in the standard order. Half ate vegetables first. The vegetable first group reduced their post-meal blood sugar spikes by an average of 37%, not a little, 37%, and their average blood pressure dropped 11 points systolic by week 8. 11 points is the kind of change that doctors notice. That is the kind of change that sometimes allows medication reduction. This is exactly what Robert did not understand was happening at every meal. Your immediate action tonight, at your next meal, eat your vegetables or salad first. Just vegetables, 2 to 3 minutes, before anything else touches your plate. That is all. Now, what you eat after those vegetables matters just as much, but the specific timing is something almost no one gets right. The second strategy is to add a specific nutrient timing pattern that most doctors have never discussed with you: resistant starch and polyphenol pairing. What this means in practical terms is this: after your vegetables, eat protein with a specific carbohydrate choice, not white rice, not regular pasta. I want you to choose carbohydrates that have been cooled after cooking. A baked potato that has been refrigerated overnight and then reheated. Pasta salad that was made the day before. Brown rice that cooled in the refrigerator. Oats that were prepared 12 hours earlier. Why does this matter? When starch is cooked and then cooled, its structure changes. It becomes resistant starch. Your gut bacteria ferment resistant starch differently than they ferment fresh cooked starch. The difference is profound. This fermentation produces compounds called short-chain fatty acids, specifically butyrate. Butyrate is a signaling molecule that reaches your bloodstream and tells your endothelial cells to start producing more nitric oxide. It is essentially a chemical instruction to your blood vessels to relax. Research from the Journal of Nutrition and Metabolism showed that people who consumed resistant starch with their meals experienced a 23% improvement in endothelial function, the ability of blood vessels to relax and expand, within 3 weeks. 3 weeks. And this was measured through flow-mediated dilation testing, which is a clinical measurement of actual vascular function, not just blood pressure numbers. In simple terms, cooled carbohydrates, better gut bacteria, more nitric oxide, lower pressure, every single meal. Your immediate action tonight: look at one carbohydrate you eat this week. Cook it, cool it, eat it tomorrow instead of fresh. That is the entire change. One meal, one night of refrigeration, one reduction in the inflammation at your next dinner. Now I need you to pay very close attention to what comes next, because this next strategy is the one that stopped me cold when I first saw the research. The third critical change is adding one specific beverage at a very specific time of day. Green tea with lemon. Consume 20 minutes after your largest meal. Not before, not with the meal after. The reason is chemistry. Green tea is rich in catechins. These are polyphenols that have been shown to improve insulin sensitivity and reduce arterial stiffness. But the absorption of these catechins is significantly enhanced by the citric acid in lemon juice. The lemon does not just add flavor. It makes the catechins more bioavailable. It allows your body to actually use them. A randomized controlled trial published in the European Journal of Clinical Nutrition followed 120 adults, average age 64, for 12 weeks. One group drank regular green tea. One group drank green tea with fresh lemon. The green tea with lemon group showed a reduction of 2 points systolic compared to 0.8 in the green tea only group. That is a 5-fold difference from one single addition, lemon. The lemon mattered. The timing mattered. Small details. It's difference. Remember what I told you about Robert earlier? His lunch was always a sandwich. What if that sandwich was followed, 20 minutes later, by green tea with lemon? That is the pivot point where his cellular recovery should have started happening. Instead, he was reaching for coffee or nothing. Your immediate action tonight: if you drink tea, shift one daily beverage to green tea. Add fresh lemon. Drink it 20 minutes after your largest meal, not with the meal after. Let your digestion have a head start before the catechins arrive. This next one concerns me most because it is so underutilized. The fourth strategy is consuming what I call microbial support foods, fermented, foods consumed with every meal. Not supplements, actual fermented foods, sauerkraut, kimchi, tempeh, naturally fermented yogurt, miso, foods where the fermentation process has created beneficial bacteria and their metabolic byproducts. These byproducts include compounds that directly suppress inflammatory pathways in your arterial walls. When your gut bacteria are diverse and well-fed with fermented foods, they produce metabolites that cross into your bloodstream and signal your immune system to calm down. Your blood vessels are under constant immune surveillance. When that surveillance is too aggressive, you get inflammation and vascular stiffness. When the immune signals are appropriate and measured, your blood vessels heal. A study in hypertension research of 60 adults with pre-hypertension who added one serving of fermented food daily showed blood pressure reductions of 9 points systolic after 10 weeks. 9 points from one serving of sauerkraut or kimchi daily. That is a clinical effect you can measure. Robert had never eaten a fermented food intentionally in his life. That is not unusual. Most people over 60 have not, and their gut microbiome is paying the price every single day. Your immediate action tonight: buy one fermented food, sauerkraut, kimchi, miso, tempeh 1. Add one serving to one meal tomorrow. That is the starting point. And now the final strategy, the one that addresses what almost no one talks about and what most blood pressure medications only partially address. The fifth and final change is consuming what I call endothelial recovery compounds in a specific food form at a specific time. The most powerful of these is beets. Raw beet juice or whole roasted beets contain inorganic nitrates. Your body converts these nitrates to nitric oxide. This is the same molecule your endothelial cells are supposed to produce. But after 60, they produce it slowly. Beet juice is essentially giving your blood vessels a direct supply of what they can no longer make efficiently on their own. The research here is remarkable. A meta-analysis published in Nutrients that reviewed 16 studies on beet juice and blood pressure found an average reduction of 7.8 points systolic and 5.2 points diastolic. That is not anecdotal. That is a consistent, measurable clinical effect. But there is a timing component. The nitrates in beets must be converted by specific bacteria in your mouth and on your tongue. If you use mouthwash or antibacterial rinses, you destroy these bacteria and reduce the effect. Drink beet juice. Do not rinse your mouth for 30 minutes after. Let your body complete the conversion. Your immediate action tonight: buy beets or beet juice. 3 to 4 times per week, one serving. No rinsing afterward. Now let me ask you something directly. Of these 5 strategies, which one is making the most sense to you right now? Is it the vegetable timing, the resistant starch, the green tea with lemon, the fermented foods, or the beet juice? Type the number in the comments, just the number, 1 through 5. Type it now. Your response helps me know what matters most to you about your own health, because the strategy most people type tells me something important. And I will be addressing the most common answer in my very next video. After 20 years of watching what happens to patients who are frustrated with blood pressure that refuses to budge despite medication, I developed something I call the Vascular Sequence Protocol. This is the system that organizes everything you just learned into a framework that you can apply at every meal starting tonight. The Vascular Sequence Protocol has 5 components. First, vessel preparation. Eating vegetables first to slow glucose absorption. Second, starch strategy. Choosing cooled resistant starches paired with protein. Third, polyphenol activation. Consuming green tea with lemon 20 minutes after your largest meal. Fourth, microbial support. Adding one fermented food daily. Fifth, endothelial recovery. Consuming dietary nitrates like beets 3 to 4 times weekly. 5 elements working together do not just lower your blood pressure number. They are literally repairing the cellular dysfunction that caused your blood pressure to rise in the first place. Here is what you do starting tonight. You do not need to change everything. You do not need to overhaul your entire diet. Pick one, just one. The one that fits your life best. the one that feels most doable. The order does not matter, the starting does. This is critical. Bring this information to your doctor. Show your doctor the Vascular Sequence Protocol. Have the conversation about whether these changes might allow medication adjustments over time. Your doctor is not the enemy here. Your doctor wants your blood pressure controlled. Most doctors are not trained in the cellular mechanisms of food timing and nutrient delivery. You are now more informed in this specific area than most physicians. Work as partners. Here is what we know. Vegetables first drops pressure 11 points in 8 weeks. Cooled carbohydrates improve vascular function 23% in 3 weeks. Green tea with lemon after meals delivers catechins when your body can actually use them. A 5-fold difference from one addition. 1 serving of fermented food daily, 9 points, beets 3 times a week, 7 to 8 points. 5 changes, 1 system starting tonight. And here is what matters most. Robert is not special. He is not a medical anomaly. He is someone who got the right information at the right time. You just did too. His cardiologist reduced his medications from 4 to 2 in 6 months. His inflammatory markers dropped 34%. His pressure became stable for the first time in years. He felt his blood vessels wake up. That is not a miracle. That is cellular repair. And the Vascular Sequence Protocol is the tool that makes it happen. If this video helped you, I need you to do one thing right now. Share it with one person you love who worries about blood pressure. Not because of the channel metrics, because you just spent 10 minutes learning something that could add years to their life. That is an act of love. Do that and subscribe. Turn on notifications. Every single week, I bring you research-based information about aging that your doctor will never have time to explain. Information that lets you show up for your own health instead of waiting for a crisis to force you to. Before you close this video, tell me in the comments, which of the 5 strategies in the Vascular Sequence Protocol are you implementing first? Type the number 1 through 5. Your answer tells me what matters most to you about your health, and it shapes what I create next. Your body has been working for you every single minute of your life without asking for anything in return. The least you can do is give it the right fuel, in the right order, starting tonight. I am Dr. Clifford Adeshina, and I will see you in the next one. Everything I have shared today is general medical information, based on published research and clinical experience. It is not a personal diagnosis or a replacement for care from your own doctor. Always consult your physician or qualified healthcare provider before making any changes to your medication, diet, supplements, or health routine.